So how did the voter turnout so far compared to the previous elections, at least 4 years ago? And what does it indicate about the public engagement?
All right, there is a couple of things that were kind of puzzling for me and for others. When it comes to Georgia, when it comes to North Carolina and to Virginia, and I think now if you look at Georgia, the vote which has been tabulated at 79%, and he has over 200,000, more votes than Harris Trump. And in North Carolina as well, and already you have over 60% of vote. So really, this is where, these are very important states. These were contested states. And Virginia, I want to tell you something about Virginia. I heard you that you called it. It has been called for. It hasn't been called for yet. So I think that Virginia is right there. I don't know how it's going to go. And more so, as a matter of fact, I will look at Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, Harris really had kind of a wide gap with Trump. But Trump now, he's catching up with her. And what's interesting also, if you go to Georgia, you have some polls that will say, the independents are going heavily toward the Trump. And that's something we haven't seen 4 years ago. In North Carolina, I would say, yes, but the difference in vote is really huge now. So these are now the surprises. And if he's going to win North Carolina, Georgia, if he's going to catch up with Pennsylvania, it's leaning more toward the Trump as I see it now. It's too early to call, but the way the trend is going, it's now the advantage somehow. I see it as with Trump.
Do you feel that these results so far are indicative of what might be the results for the future states, such as Pennsylvania, as you've mentioned, because everybody's really focusing on Pennsylvania, saying it will be very critical in how the title race is decided?
Well, yes, Pennsylvania has 19 electoral vote, and of course it is pivotal to both. But if Trump is gonna take, more blue states in what's called the blue wall, he might win without the state, and this is something it has been decided, and this is something we are going to follow. Now, what's really kind of caught my attention is the way he's catching up with Harris, especially in Pennsylvania. In Michigan now, true Harris is ahead, but Michigan yet you don't have a lot of votes that have been counted, and more so, as a matter of fact, the difference is not too high. So if I want to follow the trend, and I'm not speaking now about a pattern, I'm speaking about a trend, I see that, the independent votes most likely is going toward Trump. The women vote, which I thought is crucial, it's still crucial, but it's not overtaking the other votes, for example, from the independent, from the males, and from those, as a matter of fact, who are unhappy with what's going on. And they consider Harris, as a matter of fact, as part of the problem since she was the vice president of United States. So really, it's too soon, as I mentioned, to call, but I see trends now moving more in favor of Trump. And really, and you are right, I heard you when you spoke about the economy. The economy still is number one, and he's asking the question, are you better now or you were better 4 years before? You have, again, the immigration. It weighs heavily on some minds. But also, I want to tell you one thing, especially, when it comes, and I live in Florida, especially when it comes to the families here. If you have still a good number of families, I consider mainly, traditional, quasi-conservative. And what they see that, there is a lot of things happening, really, they feel uncertain about it. And more so, when I speak about it again, some things that the Democrat really did a big mistake, from Clinton to Biden, if you know, especially with the frustration that you mentioned, and I fully agree with you. Whereas Clinton said, listen, who vote for Trump are deplorable, and then Biden said, garbage. This is not a talk, really, especially when you have many Americans are frustrated with what's going on. And this is where Trump's come in. And I know his discourse is not great, But still now they feel that, he's someone probably they could trust more than Harris.
Dr. Rabil, now you've mentioned the independent voters or the undecided voters. Now, you said that they might be leaning more towards Trump. Now, what are the factors that would sway the independent voters one way or the other? Would you think that the polls that were made earlier would be indicative of how the independent voters or the unenthusiastic voters leaning towards one candidate rather than the other?
I believe that the early voting and the early polls are fairly indicative. Why? Because when we look 4 years ago, really the independent votes was not, you did not have a big difference, between Trump and Biden. Now you have a big difference. Mainly you have now more votes cast for Trump. And this is why I see it as a variable, and a variable that is somehow, I believe, it's playing out in different states. And the main factor, I think myself, is unhappiness, frustration, and uncertainty. Listen, I am father and I have children. And I know that inflation has affected me. And thank you God, I live well. But I know many of my neighbors and I know many of the family of my wife who are from the Midwest. They are absolutely unhappy. The inflation is high. They believe that United States is very much engaged in many wars. They are paying lots of money to Ukraine. And really, and of course, you have a lot of illegal immigration happening now. So I think that the aggregate or the cumulative effect of all these factors have given an edge favoring Trump, from the independent. This is what I come now to see, and I feel that, I'm comfortable saying I can safely argue, this.
So now, we've spoken about the importance of the economy to shift and direct the voters. Now, still also speaking about the general voters and the independent voters as well. What other major issues that could shape the election outcome? We can think of, or we can mention gun control, immigration, reproductive rights. Are these issues also shaping the election outcome?
As a matter of fact, the abortion issue and reproductive rights, these are very important. And as a matter of fact, I am really I'm confounded why I am not seeing more votes by women toward Harris. I really don't know what's going on, and probably it's going to take some time to figure it out really why I don't see more vote, because I expected, the women vote is going to be a very definitive vote, very strong vote. Now, I am not sure about it. And of course, you have the immigration. The immigration, really, it weighs heavily on many. Let's not forget, from Arizona to Nevada to Florida, to many states, really, it weighs heavily. And I live in Florida, and I know how they feel about it. Although you have a good number of Hispanic here. So yes, you have other issues. But all these issues, as a matter of fact, Trump has been successful in one way. He has hammered into the minds of Americans, regular Americans, ordinary Americans, really blue-collar workers and some white-collar workers, that really what's happening is not good, and United States is not doing good, and you have a lot of things that Harris and Biden, of course, they did bad. And he helped to create. Already you have the uncertainty. But also, I believe that he has created some kind of an environment of uncertainty. And somehow the American voter now, I feel that, and I speak with them as a professor, as someone who does a lot of forums and seminars, I feel that they look at Trump and they feel, something, we know he is probably not the ideal candidate, but we trust him more than Harris to fix the situation at home. And this is, I am leaning toward more believing in that.
Mm-hmm. So now, if we look at the future political dynamics within the United States, are there any significant changes in political alignments within the Senate or the House based on the anticipated results?
Well, as a matter of fact, we're going to look in the Senate. In the Senate, the Republican picked up one vote, from West Virginia. So we are going to see that, and I would like to follow it to see. Yes. So in the balance of power, I would like to see what's going to happen in the Senate and the House. And I am kind of now, before I didn't think it might happen. Now I am leaning more toward it could happen, where the Republican might pick up another vote, and they will control, the Senate. The House, I think most likely it will remain with Democratic hands.
Doctor, now, what about the two main parties, the Democrats and the Republicans? How are the results likely to affect the key policy agendas for the winning party over the next few years? Will they strengthen them? Will they try and diversify them or alter them or change them?
Well, okay, I would like to see that Trump, if he becomes the president, or Harris, if she becomes the president, I would like to bring, kind of a, people from the other party, Republican, American, Democrats, speaking with them. And I still remember, when I was a student at Massachusetts, I still remember Ronald Reagan sitting down with Tip O'Neill. They were, at odds with each other, but they sat down with each other. They had a drink with each other. Today, as a matter of fact, they don't even drink together. They don't even have a meal together. I really would like this to change, because really we have one country, it's United States, and really we have one people. And United States today is facing a lot of challenges within the country and challenges beyond the border of the country. We have the Ukraine war, we have the Middle East, we have the challenge from China, and you have a transition now, really, whether we like it or not. The world is transitioning more toward a multipolar world, not a unipolar world led by United States. So really, United States has a lot of challenges. And one thing, as a matter of fact, I would like to mention here is that I was unhappy that I didn't hear about it in the election discourse, mainly the national debt. If you go back to Reagan, if you go back to Bush, Clinton, Obama, they all spoke about the national debt. It was an issue. Today, as a matter of fact, 2 days ago, you had the report came out. Today, as a matter of fact, the interest on our national debt is more than our defense budget.
Yes.
It's 870 billion. And really, to think about it, why they are not discussing it? So yes, I am worried. I would like them to work together, because if they are not going to work together, we are going to be really a great power in steep decline, not in decline, in steep decline.
Dr. Robert Rabil, the Professor of Political Science, thank you very much, sir, for joining us.